Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Perfectly Mentored. I'm your host, Jason Portnoy. My guest today, I heard speak at the ManyChat conference back in September, and I knew I needed to have him on. Maybe you've heard of this platform called ClickFunnels. Not sure if you have or have not, but if you haven't, you got to really start listening to this podcast a bit more and how to grow your business. But John Parks is the VP Marketing of ClickFunnels and really a master at driving web traffic. He's been in this game for over 10 years, not only as a coach, not only as a speaker, but he's also presented in front of tens of thousands of marketers and really helped them increase their traffic and, most importantly, their conversions and sales when it comes to marketing online. When I talk a lot about people who come on the show, I like to have people who've actually spent their own money in ads before ever taking sent from a client, and he's done that. He spent millions in ads, generated tens of millions in revenue. So he pretty much knows his way around marketing and campaigns, and whether it's optimizing things on a campaign or audience or ad level or ad creative level. We were just talking offline. John is a man with the skills, strategy to really back up the talk in this game. So John, really thank you so much and welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Jason. It's fun to be here.
For the people who, I don't want to say for people who haven't heard of ClickFunnels, because we'll leave them out of this for a second, but for the people who haven't heard of you, why don't you start with a little bit about your background, how you got started in this game and how you ended up at ClickFunnels?
Yeah, thanks. That's awesome. I would love to just tell you a little bit about myself. So I actually started in the entrepreneurial thing. I mean, let's go way back. I was probably like 9 or 10 years old, right? And I was door-to-door selling for this company that let me sell stationery to my neighbors, and in exchange, not for money, because you can't pay a 9-year-old, but for like really cool things like like a bow and arrow. I remember I got a bow and arrow or other cool like prizes that you could earn for selling cool things door to door. And I mean, that's kind of where I got my first entrepreneurial taste on things, was like, wow, like I can directly affect, the sales. Like I could directly affect like what comes into my life instead of just like only doing the chores my mom gives me and getting the 2 quarters that she gives me for it, but rather I can drive it at my own pace, right? And that became really exciting for me, that I can increase the pace of my income through my direct efforts. And so then I really started clicking, and I started doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Anyway, fast forward all the way through high school and college, doing everything entrepreneurial I could get my hands on, flipping properties, stuff like that. But then I meet Russell Brunson, and he's like, we're chatting for a while. He says, I like you, and let's come and join my team, right? So that was, let's say, 11 years ago. 11 years ago, joined Russell Brunson's team, and the ClickFunnels didn't exist back then, but Russell did, and he had a lot of really cool stuff to share with the world and things to teach and courses to sell and things like that. So we just started pounding it. 11 years ago, I jumped on his team and just started selling stuff. I was managing a variety of different projects, and then ClickFunnels rolls out and ends up, well, we need traffic, we need marketing. Why don't you come and lead the marketing efforts as we roll out ClickFunnels? And so, I mean, it's been a blast. I mean, ClickFunnels is 5 years old now, and it's just been the ride of our lives.
How has it gone from when, what's been the progression from 5 years? Because you've had a pretty rapid 5-year growth. What's been the marketing team growth?
Yeah, it's really interesting. For the first, I'm going to say 1 year, it was just me, right? Just me running the advertising, producing the ads, reaching out if I needed help, graphics wise, stuff like that. But it was just me running the whole thing. And then I'm just like, this epiphany of, oh, if I brought on help, I bet I could like double our efforts. And so, I hired one outsourcer and eventually ended up bringing him in as an employee. And then the 2 of us ran for another year. And then it was just like, why are we limiting our growth by limiting our help? And so I just opened the floodgates, and I hired another and another and another and another. And now our marketing team is actually 55 people big. We've got media buyers there, people buying ads on Amazon and Pinterest and Facebook and YouTube and, the other auxiliaries of those platforms like Google Display Network and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. And, we're testing out buying ads on Quora and on LinkedIn and on Twitter. So we're media buying everywhere. We're running the old solo ad game. I don't know if you were around back when solo ads were a big deal, but they were, and then they weren't, and now the list they're kind of refresh again because people kind of have ignored them for a while. So we're running solo ads. We're just everywhere we can be, you know what I mean? And then we're building funnels. We're doing the influencer thing where we're all over the place. And so there's 55 of us now, and that growth has required a lot of evolution. For me personally, being like, hey, I'm a guy who runs ads, to, hey, I'm a guy who manages somebody who helps run ads, to, hey, I'm a guy who manages 55 people who are building funnels and writing copy and sending emails and all this crazy stuff. So it's been a huge evolution for me, just understanding how to interact with the team, how to manage things, how to manage my own time in order to facilitate all of that too.
So what lessons have you learned from that type of growth? I mean, we have listeners who listen to the show who are solopreneurs, all the way to people who manage teams of 500 people. So what have you learned from that type of growth, and from shifting really as a marketer to managing marketing people?
Yeah, it's been a huge journey. One of the big things that I've learned is the need to always be evolving and growing personally, right? Because I'd get to a point, and then I'd have, oh my goodness, I have employees now, I've got people who report to me, and then I got to figure out what that looks like, and what that relationship is like, and how do I keep them motivated and reward them and manage them, and and how often do I meet with them, and it's required me caring to evolve and to learn that stuff, right? Because it's easy just to kind of stay as you are and say something like, well, I'm not a people person, or this got me this far, it's good enough. You know what I mean? Instead, it's like, no, I need to read another book. I need to figure out systems. I need to figure out, how employees think and feel and act, how often I should meet with them. What does it mean to have a direct report? When do you have too many direct reports? How do you stack people and raise somebody to help manage the other people, and all that. All of that has just been this wild ride over the last few years as our team's expanded, and understanding what that is, and who I am in the process. Who am I as a leader? Who am I as a manager? Who am I as a friend? How do I interact with these people in those different capacities?
So how do you get over that hump? Because when you're a marketer, let's say, or even in sales, whatever it is, when you're so focused on that and that's your role, and then all of a sudden you get pulled out of it, where it's like, I'll give you a perfect example. When you're launching a business, it's all the strategy. The strategy is the most important thing, the vision, and you get so excited about that. And then the day-to-day tasks of running a business start coming into play, and you get pulled out of the strategy side and more on the day-to-day and putting out fires and whatnot. How do you get over that hump of, all right, man, I'm so immersed in what I love, which is marketing, to, wait, now I got to manage this person. I'm not the one really doing the media buying right now. I've got to manage people. And I think I could do it better than them, but I got to give them the rope to either hang themselves or run with it.
Yeah, it's hard. Part of it is, so when you're doing it yourself, when you're just picking yourself up by your own bootstraps and stuff like that, a lot of it, a lot of it is, it's always trying to be the best, right? When I'm running ads, what I cared about was the cheapest CPA, the highest average cart value, average order value, right? So I was always trying to beat my control and always just be the best and reach the best. Then when I started managing people, like you said, I realized I'm always going to feel like I could do it better. And so instead of looking for the best, I looked for thresholds. I said, okay, this is the volume I want you to be selling. I want you to be bringing in this many sales, and I want you to be bringing it within this threshold. Don't exceed the $30 CPA mark, things like that. And so as long as I gave parameters and thresholds, and I on my side on the back end as the manager was watching the revenue numbers and the average order values and stuff like that to really understand what the thresholds could be and what those magic metrics could be, then I was able to kind of, like you say, relax and give them the reins a little bit more, because I knew as long as they stayed within these parameters, we were fine. Even if I would have done it differently, even if maybe I could have shaved $1 or $2 off of that CPA because I would have used this trick or that trick, even if this, that, they stayed within these parameters that work, and it was good enough. And so we ran with it.
Awesome. I got to ask you this because I heard Russell say it. And since you're a marketer, we got to talk marketing.
Yeah.
Our website's dead.
Where did you hear that? Did you hear that from Death of a Website? Okay, cool. Yeah, exactly. Our website's dead. So you got to define a website, right? It's a fun thing to say. We're always looking for the new hook. Russell's saying hook, story, offer. He talks about it in the Expert Secrets book. And hook, story, offer is this drum he's been beating for a long time. It's an awesome hook to say websites are dead. Here's a new opportunity, right? But I mean, in essence, a sales funnel is a series of websites, right? Web pages and stuff like that. When it comes to direct sales, ads that run to buy my thing, right? We have found consistently with thousands of case studies, our students that we coach, our users who use ClickFunnels, that by far the best place to run paid advertising and promotion to cold audiences is to a sales funnel instead of just a website. What we differentiate there is a sales funnel is that guided journey. Come here. Hey, we know you came here because you're interested in this offer. Here's the offer. We're stacking it out for you. Is that what you want? Yes, it is. Okay, buy that. All right. Here's another offer. Here's an additional add-on sale as you're checking out. Is it this upsell or this bump? Do you want that too? Yes, I do. No, I don't. Okay. Thanks for your time, whatever. So that guided journey through the sale by far yields the highest, earnings per click, average order value, and conversion rate. All of those things go up when you use a proper sales funnel versus just slapping people onto a website. Is there a purpose for a website? Absolutely. We have them. You know what I mean? We've got a blog and it's hosted on WordPress. We've got podcast sites and they're hosted on WordPress. So there's definitely a place for the traditional website, but is it really that brochure style, learn about us kind of website that you want to be spending your ad dollars driving people to? So, I mean, that's what spurred the question in the first place. And then we built out the sales funnel model and proved it 1,000 times over that's the place. It's how you grow your business, acquiring new customers who pay you for acquiring them.
I also think what you touched upon is super important, is that the sale doesn't end at the sale, right? Yeah. So how do you walk that customer through that journey, right? And I think a lot of prospects I come across, haven't mapped out that journey. They've mapped out, hey, I want them to come buy and give me money, but not the how, the why, the intro offer or whatnot. And they throw out real world sales tactics because they think they could just throw money online. So what have you seen? What type of, I'll give you the perfect example. In that story I just said, we have tons of people that come to us and say, we want traffic, but some people are not traffic ready.
Yeah.
What does traffic ready look like to you?
Oh, that's a great question. So, excuse me while I get over my cough, but you're ready for traffic when you have a sales funnel in place, like I'm saying, not just a website, because yeah, I mean, if all you have is, if you're just this shop and you just have this shop and that's all you got, then you're really not ready for traffic. You drive a bunch of traffic to your Shopify store or whatever it is, and they're just kind of splat against the store and don't really know what to buy, and you hope for the best, right? But when you can say, when you've built it out to where you can say, all right, I see the journey here, I want to take them through. Here's the initial offer. Here's a bump on the order form that they might want to take. Here's an upsell they might want to take. Here's a downsell if they don't want that upsell. And you've built that out, and you're able to almost spreadsheet it and say, okay, if I get 5% of the people to buy on the front, and I can get 10% of the people to take that order form bump, which would increase their spend right there. And then I can get another, 10% to take the first upsell, and maybe 5 on the downsell of those who didn't want the upsell. And you can chart that out and say to yourself, okay, if these metrics work, if these work as I'm outlining them, and you've done some kind of research, you've asked around. I mean, sometimes it's hard to find the numbers, but ask around, get in Facebook groups, which are the new forums. But if you're still in forums, get in forums. Ask people what's your conversion rate tend to be on your sales page, on your opt-in page, on your bumps, on your order forms, on your upsells and stuff like that. get to know where the average people are landing. So then you can plug those into your numbers. You can kind of spreadsheet it and see, okay, if this scenario happens and make it be a worst case scenario, then I'm going to earn this much money. So that helps me understand how much I'm then able to spend on traffic, right? And then what's a midline scenario? Say my numbers are in the middle of where everyone is, and what say my funnel is actually the best one around. What's an awesome, winning scenario there? And you kind of threshold those out, and then your average order value is going to land anywhere between $30 and $54 because of the numbers you're able to plug in. And then you also know that fulfilling that's going to cost you $15, and so you know that you can spend $15 to acquire a customer and break even. You know what I mean? So like once you've got to that point, then you can start with traffic. And it's really interesting. So I'll tell you one thing, Jason. A lot of people don't understand this in our world because they come to ClickFunnels or any of our coaching programs and they say, okay, I want to start making sales online, right? And we get them all set up and they start making the sales online. And then they come in there all freaking out. I'm only breaking even. Like I'm spending $30 and after all my costs and everything, I'm spending it all. So I'm breaking even. And we're like, well, how many sales have you made? I've made 1,000 sales and I've only broken even. And we say, congratulations, that is fantastic, because you're acquiring buyers that are self-liquidating. They're covering the cost of acquiring themselves, basically, right? If you can do that, then you've won. You've won the game because you now know how to build a list of buyers who you can then sell the next thing to and the next thing to and walk them up a value ladder, because you can get them at a fairly break-even number. You know what I mean? And so like people freak out that they can't make profit on that front end. Some people do, some people don't. Some people, have a little bit of a loss, but that's how you win the game. That's phase one. Phase two is what else can you offer them?
It's funny you say that, and the reason why I'm smiling, nodding my head emphatically, is because I'm very vocal about that. In fact, okay. I created a YouTube video that's done well with every guest that I've had on the podcast, guys like Gary, Frank Kern, Ryan Dice, all these guys who come on the podcast who all talk about what ROAS, return on ad spend, should look like to them. And it's nowhere near what these gurus are saying with 21X. Like Frank Kern says, if I could put $1 in and get $1 back, I call that or $1.50 back, I call that a miracle.
Yeah.
Gary's like break even. Ryan Dice is like, we want to get 75%. We don't care if we spend 25 cents on the dollar to acquire a customer. It's because the lifetime value and repeat customer rate are probably more important metrics to look at. And I think we get shiny object syndrome of people showing us like, oh, look, I was profitable. I got 21X on acquisition. And the funny thing is, every time I see someone post those wild numbers, the first thing that goes through my mind is probably should have spent more.
Yeah. So the other thing is that those numbers seem to be fleeting, right? So like, yeah, when we launch a new offer, we can see 15 times ROAS, 20x ROAS, whatever. But for a moment, and then once you start expanding to colder audiences, once you get out of the cream of the crop that are going to buy anything anyways, and you have to like actually start making sales, then the numbers even out, and it starts coming down to the 3 ROAS, the 2 ROAS, the 1.5, which covering your costs is a break even, whatever it is. So those are the long-term reality numbers. In ClickFunnels, we actually spend $1 million a month in ad spend, right? Across all the different platforms we're advertising on. And at that level, reaching that many people, break even is a miracle, right? That when we break even, then we're happy. That's what we do. We break even here. 21 ROAS is not an option at that ad spend level. It's an option that when spend $50, check it out. I spent $50 and made $500. You know what? Congratulations, that's great. But now spend $500 and see what you get. Now spend $5,000 and see what you get. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I tell this to clients all the time when they ask me how fast can we scale. I'm like, well, what's your threshold? Like, I mean, are you okay breaking even to acquire a customer? Because we'll scale way faster than if you tell me you need 3x, ROAS or 4x ROAS, then we will scale way faster.
Yeah.
I also think the one thing especially on the e-commerce side, when starting off, can you deliver, what you're selling? because if your ads do well and you have this flood come in and then you sell out within 2 days, the ad game's not a start stop. It's not like start stop type of game. But one thing you said is you advertise on all platforms and you're not afraid to test different platforms and go out there. How important is omnipresence to you?
Oh, that's a good question. So we advertise on a lot of platforms, and there's some we've tested and we've turned off, right? Like right now we're not doing Twitter. We tried it for a while. Couldn't get the groove over there. So we turned it off. Maybe we'll come back to it in 6 months, right? Same thing with Quora. Tried it for a bit, turned it off. We're turning LinkedIn back on after we tried it last year and we couldn't find our groove, but we're going to try it again this year. We got some other strategies in mind, stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely, and I mean, all that being said, we're doing that because we're spending so much and because we want to find new eyeballs that might not have been found on the other two prime platforms. So would I recommend somebody who's just starting out to do that? Absolutely not. Absolutely don't start running ads on Quora and LinkedIn and whatever. Figure it out on whatever your favorite platform is. If you want to start on Facebook, start on Facebook. Figure things out there. Get good at that. If you feel like Facebook now is not giving you the volume you need, once you start feeling restrictions there, then bring in another platform, right? But if you do it too early, you're only going to get worse. That's what I feel like. You're only going to like dilute your efforts and you're just going to get confused and you're going to get washed out, stuff like that. Now you talk about omnipresence. It's important if you are trying to build, a brand, right? If your whole deal is just like, hey, I want to sell these shoes and I want to sell the shoes and I don't care, who cares about what my brand? I just care about selling shoes for $50 a pop. If I do that, I win, right? Then whatever, be a one-off, selling things on Facebook, doesn't matter. But if you want to build a brand and be an influencer and have this presence, then yeah, you need to show up in different places. Why? Because some people listen to podcasts and that's how they consume most of their content in a day, because other than that, they're working hard at work, but it's their commute where they're listening to a podcast. Some people are all on Instagram, like my wife. She's nowhere but Instagram. Well, I guess Pinterest, Instagram, Pinterest, and nowhere else. If I ran a Facebook ad on Facebook trying to attract her, trying to get her demographic, she wouldn't see it. She just isn't there. But then again, there's the demographic that's only on Facebook. So like, for example, the Russell Brunson brand, right? The Russell Brunson brand, which kind of blends in with the ClickFunnels brand really well. We want him to have a significant Facebook presence, a significant Instagram presence, a podcast presence, a YouTube presence, and we've picked up Twitter recently organically because it's just there. It's mature. It'll always be there, and it's a great platform for getting a quick message out. So. And so we have an entire social media team who's dedicated to making sure that we're maximizing our potential on those platforms, right? How important is it that we advertise on all those platforms? It's less important. It's less important to have an ad here and an ad there, unless like I said, you're trying to get a certain, you're trying to get more volume, so you're trying to reach into other places to find it. But when it comes to like an organic presence, building followers and subscribers, people are there's the YouTube watchers. There's the people who only do the YouTube thing, the people who only do the Instagram thing. You'll miss out on them if you're not there. But here's a caution. Don't regurgitate your same content onto all of the posts in an annoying way. You know what I mean? Hey, here's this one video I did. Now I am copying and pasting it across all the different places, right? It's something you can do, right? And it's not that it's not super effective. I mean, or not like it's kind of effective, but once you understand a little bit more the nuances of the platforms, then you can get so much more out of them. Like, why is somebody on Instagram? What do they want to see there? Why is somebody on Facebook? How long do they want those videos to be, right? So can I trim this video to be shorter because it's on Instagram and it's like 100% mobile viewers? Can I let it go a little bit longer because it's on Facebook and people are used to longer videos there? Can I put the full length documentary size on YouTube because people are totally legit with watching something that's entertaining them for 20, 30 minutes on YouTube as if it was a full show? You know what I mean? So like, figure out the platforms, figure out what you want your presence to be on each one, and then you'll succeed instead of just like same video, put it on all the platforms. So
love it. What can smaller companies, not ones with millions of dollars a month to spend on advertising, learn from someone who's spending $1 million a month on advertising?
That's a great question. So I think one of the biggest lessons is come back to the fundamentals, right? It's easy to get, like you're saying, shiny object syndrome, to get seduced by the little trick that worked last week, for this other advertiser who got him 21 ROAS. If you build your foundation on hacking and tricking the systems, then you're going to be short-lived and you're going to be frustrated. And the amount of churn in your advertising efforts is going to be insane, right? It's going to work and then it doesn't work, and then you're going to get mad and wonder why it didn't work, or you're going to get mad at your advertiser and say, hey, it worked last week to get me $5 CPA. Why doesn't it work this week? I don't know. Someone figured out the loophole. It doesn't work anymore, right? So instead of that, figure out the fundamentals, right? And then figure out what retargeting works. Does it, who am I getting in front of, and how often am I getting in front of them? How am I prospecting? What's that message? You know what I mean? What's the right message that's going to reach these people? Get those fundamentals in place. Don't worry about the hacks that come and go. Just get really good at standard baseline advertising. Obviously there's nuances on every platform. You wouldn't do the exact same kind of targeting on Facebook as you do on Google, but figure out, the base. When somebody comes into my world and they land on my page and they don't opt in, this messaging works, and I can run that to them for 5 days. That seems to be the sweet spot. Great. That'll work on YouTube and it'll work on Facebook. You know what I mean? So you get a lot more bang for your efforts, a lot more bang for your buck if you kind of build a baseline of fundamentals, and then you can, do that same concept on YouTube, that same concept on Facebook, stuff like that. Because you're going to have that, you're going to have that built out. At the conference in which I met you, I stood on stage and I taught the simplification of Facebook advertising. And the concept was like, retarget these people for 7 days, retarget these ones for 10, these ones for 14, and just figure out the message in each one. And once you set that up, it kind of just runs evergreen, right? But if I instead was just playing with little hacks and tricks, and if I only spend $5 on every ad and every ad set, and I duplicate that 1,000 times, I can get a cheaper click, all those kind of things. They have their window, but they don't last very long. And you're just going to get frustrated because you're having your amount of effort you're going to have to put into this is going to be insanely high, and the longevity is going to be low.
No, I totally agree. And I tell this to clients all the time, is that strategy beats hacks. And more importantly, I like to sleep at night. And if I'm running like hacks that like my ad spend increases 100% every hour, and then rules reset, whatever it is, versus setting up an infrastructure, I don't want to have to rebuild things after things blow up. I want sustainable business. That's what I aim for.
Love it. That's awesome.
What platform have you been seeing the most engagement in relation to acquisition costs for ClickFunnels?
Yeah, so acquisition costs. So we get great results when you're just looking. If you're just looking at cost, like if all I said was give me the lowest cost, go find it for me and bring it to me, right? Pinterest and Bing, we can get acquisitions dirt cheap. There's not a lot of volume there, so those aren't anywhere near top ad spend. Those, both of them combined, comprise, let's say, 3% of all of our ad spend, right? So a very small volume, but they got some really cheap results. Where does all of our volume go? Where does all of our volume go? About 60% to Facebook, and about whatever's left, 37% to Google, which includes YouTube and Google Display Network. That's where our spend is, right? And then 3% sprinkled across things like Bing and Pinterest. And while we can get inexpensive sales, the volume is not very high. So yeah, but it's fun. It's fun to get those little cheap ones and stuff like that. Another thing that's really interesting, Jason, is and I see a lot of clients, a lot of our coaching students and stuff who don't do this. Own your brand. Like, realize people are going to Google your product name, your brand, things like that. And so even if you've got nothing else running on Google, have a brand, own your brand on Google. Just own those keywords, spelling variations of them, broad match of your brand. Just own it. Be the person who shows up when they Google. Be that ad. You'll find really, really inexpensive acquisitions there, because people, I mean, if they're Googling you, they're not only problem aware, they're solution aware, they're product aware, and they're actually just trying to get you to push them over the edge. So they're trying to have somebody say, hey, thumbs up, go get this thing, right? If they're that far down the rabbit hole. So yeah, own your brand. It's not that hard to set up. If that's the only thing you do on Google and all the rest of your spends on Facebook, it's still worth it.
Love it. What's been your biggest sleeper in terms of like your sleeper pick for the next emerging platform and you're starting to see results, or the most underrated platform that the listeners should be paying attention to?
Okay, so interesting. It doesn't really have advertising implications yet, but we're paying more and more attention to TikTok. We're seeing it, as a social platform that.
Well, the ads in beta, but yeah,
and we haven't started the ads, right? But we're starting, and we've started a social presence there. We haven't put much effort into it, but the rate of growth of viewership there is really big. So the question is now, what do they want to see? What do you post on TikTok? You definitely don't post salesy stuff or pitch stuff. It's such a casual platform. In most cases, what you post should have a humor element to it. It should almost be silly, right? But yeah, there's so much attention and so many eyeballs on TikTok right now. I don't know where the revenue is, but it's a really interesting one.
Got it. And one with an ad platform right now?
That people aren't paying attention to? I'm gonna vote Bing. I'm gonna say it's Bing, which now YouTube, Yahoo searches are run on the Bing engine. It's been that way for a while. But you've got all of Yahoo search and all of Bing search. That means everybody who buys a Windows computer and doesn't care to force it to use Google is over there, right? And so if you've got products that are going to sell, and we're talking like, I've looked up a few different, market share metrics and stuff like that. 12 to 15% of all searches are on one of those platforms. And that's a low percent, 15%, but 15% of all of the searches happening in the United States, that's something to pay attention to, right?
Yeah.
And since there's not a ton of people over there, it's not overly crowded, the costs are low.
Love it. You and I both have been in this industry for over 10 years. So I have my thoughts, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on a lot's changed in this industry from a marketing standpoint, but what's been the constant?
A constant in the marketing industry. Okay, I'm going to say messaging, attractive characters, messaging. It's how you speak to people. And I'm not, I don't know. Have you had a chance to read Russell's The Expert Secrets book?
Yep.
The messaging that he teaches in here is the constant. It's finding your voice and finding that, creating the, just the way he phrases it. So that's your hook. It's your hook. It's every message needs to have a hook and a story and an offer. It's using epiphany bridges, which is, like, I know how you feel. I felt the same way. Let me show you what I found. I mean, that's a simple model for an epiphany bridge, because you've had an epiphany. That's why you're at this point. They haven't yet. You can't just come at them and say, buy this thing, and they're just going to magically have the same epiphany you did. They're not going to have it. So you need to provide that epiphany for them. You need to say, hey, I get it. I know where you are. Let me show you what I found, kind of a thing. And you walk them over that epiphany bridge. So that has been a constant for hundreds of years. You know what I mean? From everything I can tell back, P.T. Barnum trying to sell his tickets to the circus was using the same concepts, like help people have this epiphany, help them have this desire to come across. Making sure that what you're selling is an offer, not a product, is a constant, right? So I can sell you a book, or I can sell you a book with the audio, with the this and this and this, and you build an offer around it, right? It's a complex of interesting things. Think of every infomercial from your childhood on, it's always like not just the broom, but the broom and a replacement head and a guidebook And, you know,
But wait, there's more.
but wait, there's more, right? It's always been there and it always exists. The snake oil salesman from 100 years ago on his, you know, on his little trolley truck was doing the same thing. I'll also throw in this other bottle, right? Offers versus products. You know, as I just explained to kind of help you understand, an offer versus a product is always a constant.
And through that time that you spent in this marketing industry and all the time you spent in here, there's been a lot of, we've kind of touched upon this, gurus, and a lot of people that, I don't know if you've seen, but there was a recent poll where marketers actually rank lower in trust than politicians.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of people that have come out like gurus trying to sell courses that have been ruining, I think, kind of tainting the industry a little bit. Yeah. You've kind of seen a lot of people come through. A lot of people actually, you know, use your platforms in order to sell their courses and whatnot. What are your thoughts on this industry, and do you have any desire to restore a positive image to the marketing industry at all?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I mean, totally, right? That's what we do at ClickFunnels, is we get people on stage at our funnel hacking live event. We reward them with these large plaques as they generate the revenue, because, and if you look at it, our slogan is what we do matters, right? It's not just about getting a quick buck. It's about the fact that Brandon and Kaylin Poulin are changing the lives of women who are overweight and depressed and whatever, and they're giving them new hope and life and things like that. That Operation Underground Railroad is saving kids from slavery. That it's all of these wonderful things that are happening because marketing exists and because it helps us get our message out to the world. I mean, what if marketing didn't exist? Well, you'd have no idea that there was such a thing as an iPhone. You wouldn't have one in your pocket, and you wouldn't have all the benefits that come with it, right? You would have no, so you'd have no clue what the purpose of a personal computer is and why you have one. Marketing is so important to help us understand what's available to us, what the opportunities are, where the sweet spots are, and and it definitely needs to be a reputation that gets flipped around for sure.
We'll end with this, and I think it's fitting because you're at ClickFunnels. Everyone's just one funnel away, right? Yeah. Really catchy slogan. Good marketing department coming up with that. Just one funnel away. What does the perfect funnel look like to you?
The perfect funnel. Oh my goodness. We've got 12 different funnel types that we like to recommend. I think,
okay, so what are the elements of a perfect funnel?
Okay, cool. Elements of a perfect funnel. I think a funnel's lacking if it doesn't have, like I said, an offer. If it's just selling a product, not an offer, then the conversions are going to be low. I think if it doesn't have a bump on the order form, you're missing out on revenue. A bump, and that's kind of a new concept to some people. So you're checking out, and it's basically a little box that says, check this box if you want this additional thing. People have been doing it for years. The grocery stores do it by putting, some gum and a Snickers bar in front of you. Like, do you also want to include a little treat for yourself as you drive home? Yeah, sure. Check that box. Grab that Snickers, right? That order form bump just gives you that extra edge in revenue, right? And then if you don't have an upsell, like if you've gone as far and done as well on your sales page to convince somebody to purchase, it's because you were able to identify a pain point, something that was lacking in their lives that you can help solve, and hopefully you'll do it in a wonderful way, because you're selling a wonderful thing. They pulled out their credit card and they've trusted you that much, so you might as well give them give yourself the opportunity to serve them more. You know what I mean? In an upsell. Don't think of an upsell as a sleazy, strange thing. Think of it as like, well, you've just identified yourself. You've raised your hand as somebody who really can benefit from this. Here's more value I can provide you. You might not know this, but here's another thing, right? And that if you don't have an offer on the front, if you don't have an order form bump, and you don't have an upsell on your sales funnel, then you're missing out on a lot of conversion value and revenue.
And what's the most important part of a hook?
So a hook, the most important part of a hook, and hooks are found in your advertising. They're found on your sales page. They're found in your upsells. The hook it's curiosity, because a hook get you to the next step, right? That's the purpose of a hook. So like if I'm running an ad, what I'm really trying to do is sell the click, right? So the hook helps sell the click. So I can click through the ad and get to the next phase. So that's the purpose of a hook.
Love it. And really, last thing here is, at what point do you get too many upsells, right? Like, you don't want that one person going through, I checked out, great. Okay, I checked this box. Wait, there's another thing. There's nothing. How many but mores are too many but mores?
We like one. Sometimes we use two. There are people who do more, right? But like I said, you got to think about the ratio, right? So think of it like I don't know, people talk about, parenting or even having a spouse or significant other relationship. There's give and there's take. You can deposit positivity into the relationship, and then there's withdrawals, right, that happen. It's the same thing. Like you're building in positivity, but through the advertising, through showing that you're gonna solve pain points, and building that trust so they know, like, and trust you. Your hooks in a way are building in, they're contributing to the relationship. People are moving through, and then think of an upsell as kind of a withdrawal. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I'm gonna take a little bit back from this relationship. So too many of them, and you get into this negative bank account, and then all of a sudden they don't like you and they don't want to hear from you again. So you got to think about a bigger picture. Like I was saying, you break even on the front end, you sell to them forever because it's an awesome product, because they love you, and all that kind of stuff. Too many upsells is going to spoil that relationship.
Perfectly said. Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate you doing this. For the listeners who want to follow your journey and see what you're doing at ClickFunnels or reach out to you, what's the best way?
Okay, so yeah, follow us at ClickFunnels. On Instagram, we're just at ClickFunnels. It's awesome there. The best way to follow along with what we're doing and see what the trends are and what's awesome, I would say come to our event, funnelhackinglive.com. We're selling tickets right now. You get to connect with the most amazing community there. You get to interact with people who have made. I mean, we're going to have hundreds of people walking across the stage who have made over $1 million in revenue through their sales funnels. We're going to have a bunch of them crossing the stage who made over $10 million in revenue through their sales funnels. I mean, those kind of people are just going to be chumming, hanging out in the audience. You get to network with them, take them to dinner, hang out with them, right? That kind of thing. 5,000 people come to Funnel Hacking Live. It's going to be in Nashville, Tennessee. Funnelhackinglive.com. I think that is the best way to really tap in and figure out what this industry is up to and what we're doing at ClickFunnels.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Really appreciate it.
Okay, cool. Hey, it's been fun.